What is the most unexplainable thing that ever happened to you? When I was around 15, my parents left me home alone for the weekend, Friday night to Sunday later afternoon, and I was thinking, this is awesome. I can chill, play games all weekend and eat what I want. Went to sleep Friday night, and then woke up to my mom waking me up to what I thought was the next morning. So I asked, "What happened? I thought you were going out the whole weekend." To which she replied, "What are you talking about? It's 4 p.m. Sunday." I have no idea what happened to those 2 days. I didn't leave the house. There was no food or washing up that had changed since they left. I hadn't looked at my phone. There were unread messages from Saturday morning, but I refused to believe I was asleep the whole time. For months, I puked at least 5 times a week. I don't know why I wasn't particularly concerned, considering I knew I wasn't pregnant, so that couldn't have been an explanation. Eventually realized that the vomiting occurred either the day of or the day before I went to work. I only worked 3 days a week, 12-hour shifts, so I didn't put it together until I actually started keeping track. Work was making me so anxious that I was regularly physically ill at the thought of having to go back. I had a living room in my parents' 2-story house that connected to stairs leading to the second floor of the house. You could see completely down the hall on the second floor from the couch in the living room. One time my family went away on vacation, so I had my cousin come over while I house sat for them. I'd been alone in this house for a couple of days now and I just really wanted company. We're sitting on this couch playing Xbox or something. The stairs leading to the second floor are almost out of my vision. At the very top of the stairs on the left is a doorway leading to a bathroom and nothing else. We were up pretty late gaming when out of the corner of my eye I saw a gray face lean out and stare at me for a split second. I didn't budge. I just barely noticed it, but as soon as I did, it was gone. I hadn't snapped to look at it, nor did I say anything. I just continued gaming for about 3 seconds until my cousin said, "Did you just see that?" As soon as our eyes connected, he both knew we saw the same thing. The second my cousin said that, I felt my heart sink. It scared the shit out of me to have him pretty much confirmed what I saw, but brushed off. I had immediately assumed it was just one of those blurs, or darting shadows you get in the corner of your eyes at times. The creepiest part is that it slid out as if it were lying on the floor. Whatever it was, its head was at level with the top of the steps right at the bottom of the bathroom door frame. It just sorta slid out, stared, then slid back, again. I just saw it from the corner of my eyes, but it appeared to be gray-skinned with black hair from our combined description. We went upstairs and checked the whole bathroom, including the insides of luggage bags in the closet. We never found anything. Edit: to this day I still can't have a door in my house open. I'm afraid I'll be looking down the hall and some gray-skinned creature will just lean half its face out to silently stare at me, and then vanish. To all the people saying it was a raccoon or something, you think exactly like me, using that as an excuse to go make sure the bathroom is clear. We both knew it was a lie, but we both would have felt safer getting attacked by a raccoon at that point. That's why we checked every single bag in the closet. Whatever it was, we had trapped into the bathroom. It had nowhere to go. Whatever it was, it disappeared without a trace. I really do think it's scarier when someone else sees the same thing. I've had that with a cousin too. I saw something that severely spooked me and didn't say anything, but I doubled back to double-check the space where I thought I saw something. My cousin saw me doing it and said, "Did you just see that too?" Like, if it was just me, I could have mentally filed it away and told myself it wasn't real, but someone else saw it. Thankfully nothing threatening or creepy like you, but certainly something. I once dreamt my father died in his car, not even in a crash. In my dream I found his car on the side of the road with him dead behind the wheel. When I woke up from it in the middle of the night, my little brother, who was 3 years old at the time, was crying. My mom and 2 sisters woke up as well. Maybe it was because of my brother or maybe it was something else. When we woke up the morning after, my dad still wasn't home. Later the police came by to tell us that my dad had died in a car crash that same night. A few months later, in a dream, I saw my brother drown. I've never been so afraid for someone as the days following that dream. Luckily he grew up to be a young man who learned to swim. I was watching my parents' house while they were out of town. No dogs, nobody in the house except me. One night was just cleaning up the kitchen after dinner, and I should note that the house is quite large and rather creepy when you've got it all to yourself. Their bedroom is directly above the kitchen and I very distinctly heard footsteps start from the walk-in closet, go through the bathroom, into their bedroom and out into the hall. The squeaky board just outside their door made the squeak just as if somebody stepped on it, and that was it. Pure silence. I grabbed the biggest knife out of the kitchen drawer and went to investigate. Nope, I was still totally alone. There was no way for anybody to access that part of the house without going past the kitchen and up the stairs first. I didn't sleep well at all that night and even get chills typing this. I was walking to my friend's house one summer, maybe 10 or 11 years old. Anyways, sunny day, couple clouds but otherwise it's bright out, perfect visibility, when a perfectly rectangular shadow comes up from the direction behind me on the ground, maybe 50x30 in size, traveling just faster than a car probably would be and goes over top of me. I'm looking at the shape on the ground as it goes over, and when I do look up to the sky I don't see anything that could have possibly caused it. Even the clouds were just trailing little wisps. I looked back down and it was going over some houses, and then it was gone forever. So yeah, weirdest thing was a mystery rectangle shadow. I also saw mystery rectangle shadow. It was maybe 5 years ago, hot summer day, sunny blue sky, no clouds in sight. It was fast. I would say as fast as a car and maybe as big, zooming along the road, partly on the asphalt partly on the shrubbery beside. I saw it from the window and immediately looked in the sky, nothing there and no sound. Nevertheless I explained to myself that it was some military shit, as I am not really a big believer in paranormal. I don't believe in the supernatural or the afterlife, but this one incident I truly cannot explain or brush off as a coincidence. A few years back, a schoolmate of mine committed suicide. On the evening that he did, I was at home playing computer games on my couch and feeling tired. I took a nap. Had a dream of said schoolmate talking to me and being friendly, him saying how he's seen me around in school but never spoken to me before. I wasn't friends with him, have never spoken a single word to him, and there were about 400 plus other students in my school, so his appearance in my dream is odd to say the least. Anyways, woke up, didn't think much of the dream and went back to playing my game. Fast forward to the next day, was at recess when I heard from a group of friends that John had committed suicide yesterday. As it was quite crowded and noisy at the canteen, I misheard the name as Ethan. Example names, but point is the actual name versus what I misheard was quite different. This confused me because I didn't think there was an Ethan in our school. And yet, though I had misheard the name, first person that came to my mind was John. Yes, I did have a dream about him the day before, but I hadn't thought much of it and by this point had mostly forgotten about the dream. My friend then corrected me, and instantly I felt the goosebumps on my skin. Found out later that John had committed suicide in the evening, around the time that I was taking my power nap. This dream was the only interaction I've ever had with him. When I was about 11 we took in a dog for somebody who was very old. He wasn't in great health anymore, but we were supposed to be his final happy home, since we lived out in the middle of nowhere. We had him for about a year when one night I just randomly decided to go outside to sit with him and pet him. I sat outside and laid down on him, he was a big dog, for probably an hour even though it was a pretty chilly winter night. Before anybody thinks we were leaving him out in crazy cold temperatures, he refused to go indoors, and we kept a space heater in a sheltered area he would lay down in. I don't know what possessed me to say it, but I gave him a big hug right before I went inside and told him it was okay to go. The next morning, My mom woke me up to tell me that he had passed away in the night. I helped her move his body to somewhere not out in the middle of the open so the owner could come say their final goodbye, and that was it. Honestly, I still don't understand how I knew, but I think I just empathized with his pain and told him it was okay to let go and not have to keep living for us. Not me but my parents. In the place they used to live in, there was this old couch. My mom sometimes would walk by in the middle of the night and see a silhouette sitting there. She describes it as a man, sitting down, with a hat on, just sitting there. She saw it several times but thought nothing of it. Damn, she's brave now. She never told my dad, who one day said to her it's weird, but sometimes in the middle of the night I think I see a man sitting down on the couch doing nothing. So yeah, they both saw the same man sitting on this couch, and they told each other after they'd both seen it. Weird. So this happened probably 5 years ago. I was asleep in my room when my eyes suddenly opened at about 2:30 a.m. I was wide awake, like wide awake. My senses were heightened and it felt like someone or something was in my room. In the darkness, I saw an outline of something underneath my desk. It was almost like a really tiny man, maybe a foot tall give or take. At this point I'm totally perplexed but not really scared until I see it start to move out from under my desk and across my room. The light switch is right next to my bed, so I decided that in one motion I was going to turn on the light switch and jump on this thing the second it got near my bed. This thing gets near my bed, but I fucked up and fumbled with the light switch and missed when I dove at it. But, I shit you not, I watched this fucking thing through my bedroom wall. I just sat on my bed trying to figure out what the fuck happened. Now, my brother had the room right next to mine. Right behind the wall this fucking thing went through. About 10 minutes later my brother knocks on my door and comes in. The first words out of his mouth were, "Did you happen to see like a little tiny human in here a little bit ago?" I was pretty shocked and I told him that I indeed had. He replied with, "Well, I just watched something dart across my room and it looked like it came from the wall and then it disappeared through the wall and outside." To say I was stunned would be an understatement, but I was also thrilled that I didn't have psychosis. But, a little while later, perhaps a year passes and I am driving in my car and I'm listening to some late-night radio host, no idea who, and he had a guest on. The guest proceeds to describe something that happened to him and it was almost exactly what my brother and I experienced. I haven't done much research on this, but if any of you have experienced this little man or whatever the hell it was, I would love to hear about it. One of my paternal great-grandparents, not sure which one, claimed to see a little man and the story got passed down. This would have been in very rural Wales in the early 1900s. The house they were living in had a small stair attached to it and the entry door was split into two parts with the lower part being pinned back to stay open. One day they were in there working and saw a little man hurry across the room and through the open part of the door. Apparently he was very smartly dressed with a little waistcoat. My mother, 63F, has a story nearly exactly like this. It used to freak me out. It happened probably 50 years ago in Texas, at the apartment she lived with my dad. She said that one night she woke up, in the middle of the night and saw a little man who was about a foot tall standing in the dresser next to the bed, watching her. My dad was sleeping next to her on the bed while she stared at this little man in disbelief. The little man noticed her looking at him and jumped down off the dresser and ran across the room. My mom jumped out of the bed and chased him down the hallway to the living room and saw it run through the sliding glass door and out into the night. She started looking all around the living room, not sure if he was actually still in the apartment since the door never opened, and my dad came in asking her what was going on. She told him she was looking for the little man and told him what she saw, but he never believed her. She's stayed insistent since I was a kid that this actually happened, but yours is the first time I've heard someone have such a similar story. Kind of similar. My grandmother and my brother would sit under the Christmas tree playing with the train decoration running around it. She passed a few weeks before Christmas when I was very young. After her funeral, every night, at different times after midnight when we had all gone upstairs to bed, the train would turn itself on and my mom would go down and turn it off. After a week, my mom exasperatedly yelled down the stairs, "Enough, Grandma's name. We miss you but we need sleep." The train stopped and never turned itself back on again. After that Christmas, my mom refused to put a train under the tree. We gave it to our uncle who was a train enthusiast. He never had it turn on by itself after all these years. My grandmother used to live in the same room as me but was taken to a hospital about 2 weeks earlier. One night, my cat, who is a silent cat, never yells and rarely meows, came in my room in front of me in the middle of the room, stared at my grandmother's bed and meowed for minutes straight. Very unusual behavior. I just knew then and started bawling. In the morning we got a call that my grandmother passed away during the night. I started crying before my mom could even tell me. I just knew. I didn't personally witness this, but at the time my family was sufficiently freaked out by it and it was talked about a lot. One morning, my autistic brother went into my parents' room at like 3 a.m. He woke them up to tell them that his grandmother was very old and was going to die. They got a call later that day that she indeed died in her sleep that night. But he's autistic and significantly disabled, so it's not like we could just ask him how he knew that or why he said it. He did a lot of other weird psychic shit over the years, but that was the spookiest one. One of my daughters did something similar at 3 seconds old. Her grandpa was in the hospital and I told her that we were going to visit him. This was a common occurrence because he had a rare, but not life-threatening, blood disorder and we always tried to visit to help him pass the time. She walked over to the window and stared out into the dark for a minute and then, all matter of fact, says we should hurry if you want to see him ... the way he is now. That spooked me enough to wake my husband and go early, and he died within 30 minutes of us getting there. I started having a panic attack one night out of nowhere. I kept repeating something's wrong. I do have anxiety but had only had one other panic attack before this day. My husband sat on the bed with me and we tried to figure out what had triggered this. The only thing we could think of is that a family member of mine was going on a trip the next day and maybe that was making me nervous, so I made up a weird excuse to drop off coffee before they left super early the next morning. When I saw them, I felt fine. I immediately knew it wasn't connected, wished them well, and drove home. About an hour later, I get a call that a person in my family on the other side of the country died by suicide the night before. Edit, errors, edited. Thank you for all the responses folks. I fell asleep after posting, woke up to a ton of responses and I have really loved reading about other people's similar stories. Thank you for the award as well. My cousin died by suicide. Her husband died of undiagnosed medical condition a year before. Both were gone in their early 30s. The night before she died I had a dream where my deceased grandma was at a family function at my deceased aunt's house. We were all in a room talking and laughing normally. I see my cousin and her husband on the couch. My grandma tells me that he's already with her, but my cousin's coming too. I woke up and told my husband I was worried about my cousin but wrote it off as a dream. I found out she killed herself around the same time I had my dream. Years ago, my buddy and a friend of his are out in the boonies, lighting off fireworks for the 4th of July. We go out to the cars to light the stick for igniting the fireworks. As my buddy's buddy is in the car doing so, I look up at all the stars, completely unused to seeing so many. As I'm looking, something just feels off. I finally pinpoint it and start squinting my eyes, looking away and back. Everything I can think of to make sure that I'm seeing what I think I'm seeing. It's one point of light absolutely identical to the stars around it, except for one weirdness, it's doing a steady, repeating figure 8. I turn to my buddy to ask him about it and I see him staring at the same area of sky, so I ask him, "Do you see what I see?" I hadn't said a word about what I saw, but he answered back, "A star doing a figure 8. I've tried to explain it by any logical means over the years, but nothing quite matches up and I refuse to accept that a figure 8 in space is the alien teenager version of doing donuts in a parking lot." When I was about 10 years old, I woke up and had no recollection of the day before. I told my little brother and he said he had the same problem. I however didn't believe him because he was 8 and thought it was funny where I was mildly concerned. I think he thought it was a game and we were playing some pretend game. This of course made my folks think it was a game and no one took me seriously. All I wanted was for someone to tell me something about yesterday to jog my memory, but no one did. Still have no idea what happened. That was over 30 years ago and I'm the only one who remembers not remembering.